Can we do Lovecraft? Because it's really important. People seem to really give a fuck about our takes on Lovecraft. Okay. And the amount of terrain and responsibility I need to have in this discussion from episode... What episode is tonight? 6? So 5.
Yes. 5 was the one when they went back in time. Well, they went back and showed them in the war.
In the war.
Yeah.
So no.
I love that they're giving.
So we already had 6.
The full scope.
So tonight is 7. Tonight is
7.
Yeah.
And then
tonight's episode 7, right?
Tonight is episode 7.
Yeah. So 6 is what I want to talk about.
5.
So you want 5?
5 was the dad. 6 was the overseas.
You said 5 was what?
That the history of violence.
Got it. So no, 5 is the one I want to talk about. There's a lot to unpack, but we need to do it responsibly and clear. Episode 5 for me personally is some of the best written television I've had the pleasure of like witnessing, right? The discussions that arise from that episode are the same ones that have been had in and around the industry. Do black people, black men specifically, have to be gay in order to have their stories advanced or highlighted based on who runs the industry? I feel like that's an okay question if it stops there. I feel like no harm yet just asking that, right? Or am I wrong?
You got it.
Okay. So if it just stops there, that's one thing. What I would, not even what I would try, because I haven't done it whenever I'm around men who pose that question, and I've been around several men who were all in on the show into that episode, and they were like, and I couldn't even be mad at them for that because they're asking why is that an essential part of the story. Still sounds fair for me. And maybe this is experience, bias, access. The unpacking black people and our relationship in and around sexual identity is a very, very important conversation that needs to be handled responsibly. And for the life of me, I'm watching episode 5 of Lovecraft going, damn, they're bodying this shit. The trauma, the anger, the violence, and the emotional portion of being liberated and insulated and supported and finding your community. I just thought they handled that so well from a storytelling perspective. Mm-hmm. And for me, in discussing art, I don't really care to talk about people's personal preference when discussing art. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People do this thing where they insert their bias, their perspective, what they would have done. This not your. If you would have done something different, tell your story. Then I'll talk to you about your preference, nigga. But if it's not your story, shut the fuck up or don't watch it. And I guess that's where I stand on that. But I want to be fair and not completely tune out or dismiss the hetero male's conversation in and around sexual identity and feeling like in order to have that level of impact, there has to be some engagement or some pandering to the LGBTQ community in and around your platform. feel like it's. I just want to be. I want to be fair and offer that, but I also want to go. So, was the story fire? It's back to the Frank Ocean conversation. Oh man, that nigga singing to a man. Is the song fire or nah? Because if it's not, turn it off. If it's not for you, but if you can't go now, I don't fuck with the song. Shut up. Am I missing something in there? Is there something I'm not being empathetic towards? Because I want to, but I also, if we're talking personal experience, I also have black men and black women that I love dearly that have suffered from living in the closet and not feeling like they'll be loved or supported by their own people. Salute the fucking black church. You know what I'm saying? Like if we just talking dynamics and how true they are, bro, stop pretending like you don't know gay black men and black women who live in secrecy, live in hiding out of fear from being outcast by their own people. That's a thing. And
it also leads to those, like, his father's outburst,
yeah.
his father's drinking, his father's, like, that unknown anger.
Compound trauma.
Yeah, like
compound trauma that may or may not have anything to do with eventually arriving at said sexual identity. So it's a story we need to explore and we need to tell thoroughly with nuance, the way everything else gets its terrain. I know niggas who didn't fuck with Moonlight because of that. It's so sad because there's so much more to that story. Mm-hmm. And for it to just get the one with the gay niggas, like that's how that gets started. And I'm like, wait, that's what you got from Moonlight? I'm like, damn, what can I say to you if that's the limit of your ability to consume art? Maybe I'm being too artsy fartsy then. I'm open to that. I'm 100% open to being way too artsy fartsy for niggas in. And please, because we here on the pod, you're my niggas. Y'all tell me if that's what I'm doing and dismissing their questions in and around black male sexual identity and stories being told. Because it feels like, because if that's the case, I want to know why Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society and New Jack get greenlit too then. Where niggas is dying and it's just trauma. I want to know that side too then. If this is how you feel about sexual identity and it being on screen, nigga, I feel the same way about black bodies being murdered over and over again in films.
Yeah, I think the issue
maybe that's a false equivalent too. Actually,
I think the issue that people are having, like if you just look at the story as a whole, if you're just into storytelling, mm-hmm. then yes, you'll be able to look past that part because you're interested in the full spectrum of the mm-hmm. storyline. But for like people that aren't like kind of just wishy-washy or not really fully in on the storyline or anything like that, then they look at it more so as
in a vacuum, just that
in a vacuum, and also like what are you trying to push on to a certain community, and why is that something that you're trying? Why are you so interested in pushing that into the eyes, I would say, of like the youth or whatever. I think that's more so what they be thinking about without really understanding how any of that shit actually works. If you're still using like old tropes on things, then you would believe that if you see enough of something, then that's actually what you'll become.
What?
You know, like
are people that impressionable?
Completely. Like that's what people think.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like they think that that's what it is because that's the talk on like why same sexes shouldn't adopt. You know what I mean? Because of like
because their kid will look at them and go, "This is what I'm supposed to do.
This is what I want to do too." Like you know what I mean? Like that's kind of the idea. You know, if you're still using old tropes, then that's exactly how you would think life works. You know, it's just like your experiences on sexuality will be, or they even think that, you know, in a lot of those, if you go even darker, you'll think that that's something that gets passed on to a child.
Jesus,
You know what
it's
I mean?
hereditary.
Yeah,
Got
like
it.
if you're there, then you'll actually, they'll push that agenda onto you. You know, so that's something, that's another thing.
Man, I just, it's not as simple as can't we all just get along. I understand that, but
I think the story should always be told the way that the artist would like to tell it. I don't think that it should ever be like pandered to. Like I didn't think that this storyline was pandered to a demographic. I feel like that fit right into the overall narrative that they were trying to push off. Like
Yeah.
I don't think that was something that we need to insert because we need to make these people feel included. Nah,
it's
to tell
it. Let's not get it twisted. It happens, but it also happens when they
completely happens. Yeah.
when they put the random minority character in something just to fill the quota. When they put the like it, there are moments when that is a thing. This didn't feel like that to me.
Yeah. They could have done it. They could have done it that way, but yeah, this what that I don't think that's how
It could have been, but it didn't feel that way. It not for one second.
And if that was what they were trying to do, and that's even crazier because so far it feels like that story is being told however the fuck they want to tell it.
Yeah. Salute to Misha and everybody again. We got to keep reiterating that the storytelling in episode 5 was amazing.
Yeah.
And then they decide to turn the fuck up on 6 again. Like every episode keeps getting better.
To do that in a whole nother country is crazy.
Bruh, so tasteful.
Because they were able to deal with their own issues that they have as a culture as well.
Yep.
Between that mom and the monster lady, like it was a whole dynamic there as
the
well.
Sherpa and the detail. I didn't know, and I'm still learning what that means exactly, G. But my affinity for nuance, because it's hard to do. Like the action and the blood and the guts and all that shit feels really easy, but sucking you in to the story and making you like the mom. I was able to empathize with the mom, even like, yo, she's sick as fuck, but even her character, like there was so much depth there, and I'm sure that's an attribute to the actors and actresses that were on that episode too, but the writing, my nigga.
Yeah, but like doing anything for your male counterpart in order to for your family to survive and thrive. Because you're in a culture where men are at a high level and women are basically treated like shit. Especially if they're on their own, like it's almost as if you're invisible and we'll just walk over you on the street or whatever. So that's it. That was interesting. All the way up to like, well, we can't talk too much about it because I don't know how many people have watched it, but yeah.
Yeah, no, spoilers.
I did like too though that you were able to tell another side of Atticus. 100%. So that you don't always see him as like the protagonist. Like, nah, bro is also like
a
sicko at some point too. That was also something from back then,
and it was
where they were brainwashing Americans.
It was really short lived, and I think I'm so glad you said that. I think that's the detail I'm talking about, G. Like, because to develop that character the way you're talking about, usually it feels like they spend an insane amount of time giving you that perspective. That moment was so short, where it was like, yo, which one of y'all is the informant in this group? It was so quick, but it was so impactful that you never forget it. And then the very next time you see him again, he's in that role that just it reminds you of like, oh, this is the protagonist and why we have an affinity for him. And we offer him the terrain that we do, but it helped understand how he was beating the shit out of his dad the episode before. Why he's fearless when he's moving around the south side of Chicago, like he just moving, like he ain't scared of shit. Oh, of course not. He didn't seen some shit for real, you know.
Also, when she connected to him and did the flashback, and they got to see what they were doing to people that were informants.
Yeah, and they were like pulling out the teeth.
Yeah.
like the torture schemes and stuff like that, and him being right there. So that's all things that that gives the full picture for people if you catch it. You know what I mean? And like it makes it so that you're not always thinking that things are like sweet. You know what I mean? Like everything isn't sweet. It's a full terrain.
One of the criticisms our reviews have gotten in regards to Lovecraft is two of the reviews, because one of them is hilarious.
Okay.
Shout out to the homie. I wish I could remember your name. I'll shout you out on the next one, because you comment on every time we post a Lovecraft review. It's like, first of all, this ain't nothing gonna ever be Game of Thrones. I was like,
nah, this is killing Game of Thrones.
And I was like,
I haven't seen Game of Thrones, but it's killing.
And I was annoyed. That's disrespectful, by the way. But I was annoyed
to talk about, but that shit.
I was annoyed, but then the very next comment was like, "Nah, this shit is hard though. Like it's a close." So it was poking fun at us for even posing the question, but at the same time, bigging up how dope the show actually is. And so and then the other one is like, oh, so y'all not gonna have no critiques of the show at all? And it's like, no. I don't have any. Maybe you guys have some. I don't have any.
Well, also the show is like in episode 6, so like so far you're giving it. They did so well at telling so much of the story in the first episode that it pulls you into a point where, oh, I can give this thing leeway like a motherfucker just to get an idea where they're taking us to.
Yeah.
As some storylines will start off super slow, and they're doing this 8-episode thing as well, so like you're probably not gonna know much about any of the characters for 3 seasons.
Yeah,
that's not how they chose to tell this one. So this one lets me know that I don't know how many seasons they have underneath their belt if they're going this hard in the first one, but I think that they're telling such a well-rounded story that you gotta kind of give it some time. And then also, I don't really have many critiques when you're telling so many sides of our story going through history. You know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to say about that? Like, bro, if I'm looking at other shit that people give amazing reviews that ain't telling nothing, that ain't give you no information,
zero,
I refuse to give this motherfucker that much critique.
And that's my point.
And the genre.
Yeah.
They're connecting history in a science fiction genre,
marking it
and killing it.
Yeah, I'm going. So degree of difficulty.
Exactly.
And we spend so much time talking about the shit we don't care for.
We said that a long time ago.
That's why L's part of the show is so brilliant, because it's like, shit I don't care for. Boom. Niggas get however many characters for their tweets and go on rants about shit that they don't care for. Bro, our show is dedicated to shit we fuck with.
Pretty much.
And if you ain't got it, if you haven't figured it out by now, what we love the most is black people.
For sure. And also, spoiler alert, in everyday life, I don't spend much time thinking about things that I don't care for.
Talk about it.
Like, when I do that little segment, that literally hit me in a split second, because that's how much time I give shit I don't care for. I just bring that shit to the forefront so that other people could just know, like, how much time I put into shit that I don't give a fuck about.
Man.
Like, But
that's why it's brilliant. That's exactly why it's brilliant.
But I've trained myself to the point where I don't even think I see things that I don't care about.
Damn, that's beautiful. That's
like, I completely look past some shit that I don't care for. Like, and that allows me to live a certain type of way where I give a lot of energy, and I put out a lot of energy that has to do with positivity, and also things that are going to elevate my current stance.
Absolutely.
Anything detracting that, bro, is null and void in my book.
And one other thing that I personally love about Lovecraft is how they develop characters, introduce characters, and then decide to give you bits and pieces of every character's past, but in the most randomest moments, where if you're not paying attention to the show, you miss it, and then later on it hits you, like they'll bring it back that this is where this character comes from.
Yeah.
Because in the first episode, he called the one chick, and nobody, it's like, who the hell did he call? And
Yeah,
then
that
they
phone
don't.
number you call.
Yeah, and then they don't bring it till episode 6.
Yeah.
Like things like that, I love.